Hello everyone and welcome to the New York Empoleon's first actual full-length video specifically designated to the GBA Season 4 D-League. We are so excited here to get started and get the season underway. Here we go with our draft analysis. Now, I talked to a lot of people about this draft. I tried really hard to prep a draft that involved both Pokemon that I'm very comfortable with and Pokemon that I know I want to use in League format, and some new stuff as well, because nothing is fun on this channel if I don't try something out that I don't use that often. So, I spent a long time going through, okay, here's the Pokemon that I want. There's this list that I want to go down. These are the most important ones to me. Then there's like a couple tiers down, like what I really want. And everyone kept telling me, you don't have a first round pick. You don't have a first round pick. None of these Pokemon represent a Pokemon that you would take in the first round. And they were right. And so I sat there and I said, okay, well, let's figure out what pick I am. 11. Pick 11 out of 12. So I have a ton of Pokemon. Tapu Koko, definitely not going to make it to me. Magearna, legal in this league, definitely not going to make it to me. Celesteela is not coming down to me. Kyurem Black's not coming down to me. I know this going in. I was like, okay, I'm not even going to worry about these Pokemon. What Pokemon is a late round 1 pick? That's just a hard pick because it's almost like a good round 2, but it's a late round 1. So, and obviously Magearna goes, Celesteela goes, Koko goes, Hoopa goes. I mean, everything's just gone. And I was like, okay, so the Pokemon I'm going to look at is going to be Victini, and I said if it can come down to 11, which there's a very solid chance that it does, that's a pretty solid round 1 pick for me. I love the idea of using a Pokemon that is base 100s across the board. Incredible stabs in Fire and Psychic can be used on the physical side with V-Create, Zen Headbutt. On the special side, it's got Psychic, it's got Blue Flare. You give it Bolt Strike, Glaciate, U-Turn, Trick. I mean, this thing, it learns everything. It's got crazy coverage. So I'm really excited to use this thing this season. I have been bodied by Victini in the past, so I think this thing on the New York Empoleon can put in a ton of work this season. I thought it made a lot of sense as a round 1 pick. Excuse me. Now, because I was the 11th pick overall, the next pick that I had comes 2 picks later after the 12 gets the 12th and 13th pick. I get the 14th pick after that. And so it comes right back to me, and I had picked out my Mega being Mega Venusaur, and I thought that this was the time to get it because there's 20 picks before my next one, and I didn't think it was going to last quite that long. So I said, okay, I'm going to take Mega Venusaur now. I know it can put in a lot of work. It led me to a championship in the TBL Season 2, so we have that knowledge. We have the ability to use this thing. I've proven that I know how to use it. It can be physical with a base 100 physical attack. That's not bad. Or special. It's a little bit higher. I think base 122 on the special side. So a little bit higher special attack, but it can be used either side. It's got Knockoff, it's got Earthquake, it's got Power Whip if you want to go physical, it's got Sludge Bomb, it's got Giga Drain, it's got all sorts of fun things on the special side, plus obviously the hidden powers can make it really, really useful. Obviously, it's got reliable recovery and synthesis, it's got setup and growth, it's got ability to Leech Seed, Toxic is 100% accurate, it's got Sleep Powder if I want to go that route. This thing can do a million different things, and Thick Fat's an amazing ability for a grass type because it makes it only weak, in this case because it's grass poison, to Psychic and Flying, and I think that's going to put in a lot of work. I can prep for Psychic and Flying types, and then this thing can obviously sit in and just take hits forever and just sit there. And that's what it does. I mean, if I have to do that, I will do that. I don't love stall. I don't play stall. I don't think my Mega Venusaurs are ever stally. They're all fun, but they're not stally. But I will play to win a game every time. And so if it means that my Toxic, Leech Seed, Protect Mega Venusaur has to sit there, it will. But I don't love that style, and I'll almost never run it. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't have those options, and that doesn't mean I can't run it if I do think that is the best matchup for a given week. Alright, so now there's 20 picks in between my pick here and my next pick, and I was like, okay, there's 2 Pokemon that I would love to grab. I think Hydreigon matches up with this team extraordinarily well, and I think Excadrill matches up with this team extraordinarily well, and I think grabbing Victini, Mega Venusaur, Excadrill, Hydreigon as my first 4 picks would be phenomenal, and I would walk out of that and say, you know what, this is going to be absolutely perfect. So, round 3 comes around. I took Excadrill. I wanted a spinner. I thought that I would do well in between the Mega Venusaur and Victini speed tiers. It's a really, really valuable Pokemon in Draft League format. It made it down to the bottom of round 3, which I was kind of surprised about. Stab Earthquake with Mold Breaker, Stab Iron Head. It's also got Sand Rush if I decide to go with the Sand. I mean, this thing is so good in League format. I just didn't understand how this thing got down to round 3 as one of the few spinners that quad resists Rock. And so I grabbed it there. I said it'll match up with my team really well. Obviously, I'm developing a little bit of a ground type weakness, but we're going to try to deal with that later. Hydreigon will be really, really helpful. So the next pick, the very next pick, it goes 20 picks and neither of these things get picked, and the very next pick is Hydreigon. So I don't get it. So it doesn't come back to me in my 2 picks in between these two. So instead, I improvised as my tier 2 and grabbed Milotic. Now, Milotic is fantastic in League format. It has two just absolutely beautiful abilities in Marvel Scale if I wanted to run defensive, or competitive if I wanted to run offensive. It can stop sticky webs, defog, intimidate. Any of those are fine. It gets such reliable recovery in recover. It gets access to Haze. It gets access to Dragon Tail for phasing. It's got Scald, which is a fantastic ability. If I don't want to run move, if I don't want to run, you know, the risk of missing the burn, then I can just straight run Toxic. It gets Ice Beam or Icy Wind for speed control. It gets access to Iron Tail if I ever wanted the coverage. I mean, this thing can do a million different things, and it can do them super well. Obviously, it's got a common set that it's going to run a lot, which is definitely more tanky. But I think Milotic has the ability to just straight go offensive. It doesn't allow my opponent to freely set up sticky webs against my team. It doesn't allow my opponent to bring in intimidators against my team. So I think that this thing has a chance to really prove itself and be a very big threat in the GBA this season. So I grabbed Milotic, and now I wasn't going to grab Milotic at all. Everyone went like, oh man, you just grabbed Milotic. Like, obviously, Mega Venusaur Milotic, what a classic core. I was like, I wasn't even going to do that. But then I looked at it and I was like, Victini Milotic Mega Venusaur is my Grass, Water, Fire? Yeah. Okay, sure. Not complaining. But now it's round 5, and this is where I, again, had 20 picks in between my 4th pick and my 5th pick, and I said, you know what? There's a Pokemon that I want, and I actually did a lot of research. I looked up past leagues, including the GBA, like A-League, including other leagues that I've been a part of, and I looked up the round in which this Pokemon got drafted. And I said, it's usually round 7 or 8, so it doesn't matter if I grab it in round 5 or 6, because they're like 2 picks apart, like 4 picks apart. So I said, okay, I'm just going to grab it now. It doesn't really matter, and I want to make sure I have it. This is the Pokemon that I was starting to build my team around. This is the Pokemon that I wanted to be the linchpin of this team. Gardevoir. Gardevoir, like Mega Venusaur, was on that TBL not championship team, finals team. We didn't win the championship thanks to Latias missing a Draco Meteor, but Gardevoir was on that team. It had the 2nd most kills on that team during the course of the season. It is such a versatile Pokemon in League format. Trace is an amazing ability to give you information, or to give you the ability to get a free switch in on something like a Jolteon with Volt Absorb. It can give you access to that. It gives you such good information about your opponent's sets, what they're running, and what their ability might be. And then additionally, beyond just that, its coverage is absolutely massive. Moonblast and Psychic being 2 stab moves, and if you want to hit a special wall, Psyshock, done. Then it's got Energy Ball, Thunderbolt, Shadow Ball. I mean, it's got everything on that side. Icy Wind if you want to run it. It's got Trick, Destiny Bond, Pain Split, Heal Bell. I mean, it gets Will-O-Wisp. It gets so many different like support moves as well. And you could run it with a Life Orb, Assault Vest, Choice Scarf, Choice Specs. You could run Shadow Sneak if you wanted to 1 week. This thing, I've run the craziest Gardevoir sets ever. So I'm super excited to get this Pokemon again. I would have waited until round 6, but it really didn't make a difference. I didn't think my opponent was going to take either of the Pokemon that I wanted for round 5 or round 6, and he didn't, so I wasn't too worried about it either way. But I said, you know what, let's just take Gardevoir while it's there. It's the free time to grab it, and I think this is the best possible Pokemon to match up with this team. Now, at this point, I don't have Hydreigon, and I really wanted it, so I don't have a Dragon type yet. I do have my Steel, and I do have my Fairy, but I'm still missing my Dragon type, and I said, you know what? I need something that's going to cover Gardevoir's weaknesses better than everything else does, because I do have 2 Psychic types now. I would love a Dark type. I'm looking at like, okay, it's weak to Steel, it's weak to Poison. What can cover those weaknesses? And then I just saw Bisharp. I just saw it, and I was like, you know what? That Steel, Poison, Dark, Ghost, sure, Bisharp. It makes so much sense on this team. I didn't have a lot of priority on the rest of this team, so I figured, you know what, grab Bisharp. Sucker Punch is amazing. Didn't have a lot of knockoff on this team. There you go. It's Pursuit Trapper, it gets Iron Head, it gets Poison Jab, it gets X Scissor, it gets Swords Dance, it gets, I believe it gets Rock Polish, it gets Hone Claws, it gets all sorts of moves. I'm super excited. This thing is fantastic, and base whatever the heck attack, I think it's 125 or something, it's absolutely going to hit like a truck. I mean, Bisharp puts in so much work. It's got Defiant, which makes it able, again, like Milotic, to disincentivize Intimidators and Sticky Webs from being put up on my side of the field, which is absolutely perfect. So I thought Bisharp matched my team so well. I'm super excited. This thing puts in so much work. It puts on so much pressure. So after Bisharp comes, I was like, okay, now again, 20 more picks. What do I look at for tier 4? I'm looking at my tier 4. I'm like, okay, I don't know what's in this tier that I love. I'm still missing my Dragon type. I'm still, you know, there's some stuff that I want to fill on the team. But there's a Pokemon that I wanted to use in League format for a long, long time, and I decided to go with Ditto as my round 7 pick. Ditto does anything, and you'll note that my drafts are supposed to be incredibly difficult to prep for, because my team is supposed to be versatile enough that you don't know what's about to come. Ditto makes you prepare in a way that if you don't have a Ditto on the team, you don't have to prepare. People can't bring as much setup against me because Ditto can just come in and steal it. If it's Scarf Ditto, it's just going to steal your setup and then outspeed you. People can't just willy-nilly have moves on their Pokemon because Ditto can come in and use those moves against them. A lot of Pokemon struggle against themselves, and a lot of Pokemon are phenomenal against themselves. Ditto can match up either way on those Pokemon. So, you know, you bring in a Pokemon like Jolteon, and I get to get your Volt Absorb on a Volt Switch. If you're Specs and I know it, then I'm now Scarfed, I outspeed you, you're locked into Volt Switch, I can click something else, or click Volt Switch knowing you're going to switch out. So, Ditto puts in a lot of pressure. It gets such a unique ability to give you insight into your opponent's sets. Even if I don't bring it in a certain week, it forces my opponent to look at the matchup in a different way. And after I grabbed Ditto, I only had a couple picks before my next one, and I looked at my team and I was like, wow, that's a ground weak team. Nothing is off the ground. I didn't get the Hydreigon that I wanted. Again, it fit my team so well. I'm so sad that I didn't get it. So it fit my team so well, I was like, okay, well, my team's super weak to ground, so let me look around and see if I can grab a flying type. And I looked into tier 3 because I still had some free points left over, and I said, Crobat, I mean, I've already got Mega Venusaur, I don't love that. You know, Honchkrow, I'm not feeling another dark type, I already got Bisharp, I really want a flying type. And then I was like, oh, tier 3, flying type. And I only want a flying type. Tornadus-I. So I looked at Tornadus-I, base 115 attack, base 125 special attack, base 111 speed, and access to moves up the wazoo. I mean, U-turn, knockoff, heat wave, superpower, hurricane. I mean, it gets everything, and it's just like so strong. It gets access to tailwind, defog. I mean, it's a flying type. It's off the ground. So I was like, this. Yep. So Tornadus-I made a lot of sense on my team. Now it's a Pokemon that I don't have a ton of familiarity with using it in League format, but access to Prankster or Defiant and those ridiculous attack stats that I just mentioned make this thing incredibly valuable as a tier 3 pick. So I looked at that and I said that there's nothing better on this that fits on this team better than a Tornadus-I. And beyond just Tornadus-I, I was like, okay, I still need something off the ground. I'm gonna look out for something off the ground, but I'm gonna try to find an electric type. And in round 9, I think this was the big mistake of my draft. I drafted Electivire because I love this Pokemon. I think it actually has a lot of use in League format. I know that's not the consensus among the community, but this thing has put in work in past seasons for me. Access to all sorts of moves in Wild Charge, Brick Break, Earthquake. I mean, it's a really fun Pokemon to use. It's another electric community, but I did already have Excadrill, so I'm not sure that Electivire is going to stay on the team forever. But I think this Pokemon has a lot of value for me. It does give me some interesting matchups and makes people prepare in a different way. Gave me that speed tier that I wanted. So that's why I took Electivire. But the ground weakness was really real, and the ground weakness is really real. And I actually realized afterwards that I probably should have just grabbed Rotom, like basic, simple Rotom. Electric Ghost would have been perfect for this team with Levitate. That would have been amazing. So it got drafted after that, so I end up not being able to pick it up out of free agency. But we'll see what happens over the course of the season. So anyway, I grabbed Electivire in round 9, and then I was back to me in round 10, and this is the really short break, and I said, I need a Dragon type. I need a Dragon type that's not on the ground, and I need a Dragon type that's not on the ground that's in tier 4. And I looked at it, and I was like, so Flygon, that's it. That's the only one, and it fits all of the descriptions that I needed. It's a Dragon type that's not on the ground in tier 4. And I looked at it, and I was like, you know what? That's another U-turn mon. That's the base 100. That's pretty solid. It gets access to Stab Earthquake, Stab Outrage or Dragon Claw. You can use it on the special side with Draco Meteor if you want to. It gets defog. It gets I mean, it's a really solid mon with some pretty ridiculous coverage, and it gets access to the elemental punches. The ice weakness, not a big deal for my team. I mean, Victini, Milotic, they all handle that, so I'm not too worried about the ice weakness that it has. And it's off the ground, so it gives me another Pokemon to switch in on those ground type attacks that I just opened up even a bigger weakness with Electivire. So with Flygon in hand, I said, okay, it's one pick left. It's going to go all the way back and all the way back to me, and I'm the second to last pick overall. And I have another pick from a tier 4 mon, basically, that's how many points I have left. And so I was like, okay, what fills out this team? I mean, this team is looking pretty good. It's not missing too much. It's got entry hazard, it's got hazard removal, it's got access to things off the ground, it's got different typings. What am I missing? And I looked and I said, Excadrill's missing something. Excadrill's missing something very important. So with the second to last pick overall in the draft, I grabbed the Sand Setter Gigalith. Yes, I think Excadrill in the sand is more valuable than Excadrill out of the sand. I think Excadrill can put in a lot of work this season, both in and out of the sand. But having the opportunity to be able to set the sand up and make my opponent worry about that, and Flygon, Bisharp, Excadrill, they all love the sand, and Gigalith can set that up for them freely. I mean, this thing is pretty darn bulky. It's got base 135 attack too, so don't expect me never to have this thing be offensive. I mean, it gets pretty crazy coverage, but that's not even, I mean, what this thing is primarily for is for Excadrill to sweep teams. I didn't have a great sweeper. I have a lot of wall breakers. Victini maybe is a sweeper, but Gardevoir is a wall breaker. Bisharp's a wall breaker. I mean, so I had a bunch of wall breakers, and this makes Excadrill into a huge sweeping threat. And I can watch Excadrill play through Pokemon and rampage through teams all day long. So hopefully Gigalith Excadrill will put in work this season. Hopefully Gigalith puts in work with the Bisharp. It can run Sturdy if I don't want to run Sand one week. That makes sense to me too. I mean, this thing has access to that. It's got access to crazy good moves. So hopefully everything goes well. Hopefully this season is what I expect it to be. And as this comes to a close, we had to pick our Z captains. So I decided that we had 100 points to allocate. Tier 1 is 80 points, Tier 2 was 60 points, Tier 3 was 50 points, Tier 4 was 40 points, and Tier 5 was 20 points. You can allocate your 100 points however you wanted to do so, almost like free picks from a draft. So I decided I was going to go with Tornadus-I and Flygon as my 2 Z users that totaled 90 points. These points are tradable throughout the season, and I can exchange which Pokemon I want to be my Z captain at some point during the season as well if I do decide that those 2 aren't going to satisfy me. But I think those are the 2 that I wanted, and I can use those 10 points as trade fodder later if I need to, or I can try to grab 10 more points from somebody to get a Tier 5 Pokemon to be a Z user as well. So that is the New York Empoleon draft in the GBA D-League. I have never used weather during league matches before. I have never used Ditto, Milotic, Bisharp, Excadrill, Tornadus. I mean, this team it's all Pokemon that I've seen be successful and know how to use in my Twitch stream, but I've never really used in league format. So I'm actually really excited for this season. It's all Pokemon that I love, so I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Expect some crazy fun nicknames from the Fire Emblem side of me. Obviously, Goldoa Dragon Fire Emblem reference for those of you guys who get it. For those of you who don't, awesome series and you should play it. Shout out to Fire Emblem. But the New York Empoleon are going to be taking on Season 4 of the GBA D-League. First battle next weekend. We're not wasting any time in this. We're not getting any rest. First battle next weekend against Iron Flash Gaming, Zazo. I can't believe we're going to just jump right into this against his team straight up. I mean, if there's a scarier team out there, I haven't seen it yet. So hopefully everything goes well. We've got not a lot of time to prepare for that, but I will see you guys back here with the team builder on Saturday and the battle on Sunday. Take care, everybody. Hope you guys are excited as I am for this season.